Okay, can you hear it? Is the sound coming out okay? We're getting ready? Sounds good? Okay, we've got that. You've got, so, yep. Okay, we've got extra erasers. That's going to be too dark. That's a good eraser right there. And you've got your kneaded eraser. We're going to start in just 1 minute. Get your things together. You need paper, a pencil, an eraser, a ruler, and some kind of light colored marker or highlighter. Yeah, do you like the kneaded eraser? That's fun. So, y'all tell me when it's time. You ready to go? Okay, it's 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Welcome to art class. We're so happy to have you here today. It's Tuesday, and today is really a different lesson. Normally I'm giving you some art history or some techniques. This really is just fun. And these are the basics of being amazing, of making a maze. So since we're at home, and sometimes you might have your homework to do and you're thinking, oh, I'm tired of being still, or sometimes you might be sitting and think, I don't want to watch any TV. This is a fun exercise to get your hands moving on paper, almost doodling, but it gives you something to make. So, are you ready to make a maze, Tate? So you need to have a pencil. We're going to be using charcoal, and you need to have an eraser. We're actually going to be using, you want to show them kneaded erasers? Because we're erasing charcoal. So if you see us with a funny eraser, we're going to be using kneaded erasers. You need a straight edge of some kind. If you don't have it, you can just try and make it as straight as you can. And then you need a highlighter or a light colored marker, because that's going to help us trace our path and then fill it in. So, okay, so Tate, are we ready to get started? Well, the first thing with building a maze is you have to understand what it's made up of. It's made up of channels and junctions and ins and outs. So we want to talk about what a channel is. So you have your pencil right there. So the channel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you practice at the top part of your paper, and then we'll do our maze below. Really, making a maze might have you do several practices, so this is a great reminder sheet. So when you go after the lesson and you want to make more, you can remember these tips. So when you're making a channel, it's actually what you're going to draw your line through. You want to make sure you keep them at the same distance. So this would be the channel of your maze. So we're going to just make a few channels that we try to keep spaced about the same width. So for instance, if I was working my maze, my line would go through the middle like that. That's the middle of my channel. Tate, you can do it with, yep. And normally the channels are all right together. So this would be really the structure of your maze. So it's always good to remember that you need to keep those fairly equally spaced. We're going to be making a straight edge maze today, but you can make your maze any shape after you learn how. So let's practice keeping a channel on a squiggly line. So if I make a line like that, I'm going to try and keep it, it's about a fingertip width away from me. So I'm going to try and keep that the same. See how we're trying to keep that line equal distance all the way up and around. So that your channel, so let's try it again, and you're going to try and make a line, squiggly line, however you want. And when you put your second line where you're making your channel, you want to try and space those two lines equally apart. Like that. Yep, yep. So, we can even do it if we go in a spiral. So, we're going to go around. Now, when I come in and I match this, I'm going to try and keep my channel equal distance all the way. Meaning, I'm keeping my lines spaced equally apart. Yep, so all these can be elements of a maze depending on if you're going straight lines, horizontal, vertical, horizontal, across, vertical, up and down, squiggly lines, spirals. You're going to want to keep that space equal. So we're just going to keep that in mind when we start putting it together. So we've practiced some channels. Are you ready to start drawing a maze? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get our straight edge, and we're going to right here start working on our maze. Now you're going to be drawing lines and erasing them. So try and draw a little bit lighter, because you can always come back after the class and darken it up. But this way, especially on your first time to draw a maze, it'll help you think how it works in your head. So I'm going to make a rectangle. So I'm going to use my line right here. And I'm making mine extra big so you can see it at home. You don't have to make yours as big, Tate, if you don't want to. But it's a little hard to do right here. My board keeps wanting to move. Okay. So get a nice rectangle. Tate, can you make a bigger rectangle for me, baby? All the way, use that as your top and come all the way down here. That'll be just, or that could be a channel. Why don't you make a separate rectangle about this wide and then come down this side. Yep. There you go. So we're going to get our rectangles on here. And then I'm going to divide this rectangle in half. I'm going to put a line right down the middle here. And nothing has to be exact. Just we're kind of beginning our layout. Yep, that looks good. Oh, no. You're just making one line like that. See? Just like that. You don't have to trace both sides of your ruler. You're just thinking that. So I've got my rectangle right here. I've got my line down the middle. Now I'm going to divide this rectangle in half right here. So you should have something that looks like this. I was trying to be a little bit lighter. Is it showing up? I have Talia behind the camera today. So, and then we have Tate up here, and Keaton is making a maze at the same time because then he and Tate have the challenge of solving each other's mazes. So you should have a rectangle here, then divide it in the middle, then right here. Do we have a question?
Your lines could go a little bit darker and your yellow's a little hard to see.
Okay. So we'll try and show these, but I'll go over those in a minute. What we want to do now is you want to take your eraser, and we're going to erase wherever you want your starting point. Okay? So I'm going to erase a little line right here. On mine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where it is. But you don't need to do this because you don't want to, but see where my starting point is? So I'm going to make little lines so you can see them easily at home. But you want to erase. If I'm going to darken that up, Talia. That's going to be my starting point. And then I'm going to have my exit point right here. So I'm going to erase away.
Someone would like to do this on edible paper and eat it afterwards.
Well, I didn't even know about edible paper. If you have edible paper, make your maze and eat it afterwards. Then no one would ever be able to solve it. So I don't know. It's very exciting. We're going to have to find out all about that. So we have our entrance. So this is where you don't need to draw these arrows. I'm just going to do it for demo. So this is where you're going to have them start the maze. And this is where they're going to exit the maze. Now, we've got to make sure we're going to get through these locations. And we're going to make what's called a bottleneck. It means there's only one way in and one way out. So we're going to decide they're going to enter somewhere about the middle here. So I'm going to erase a little space. And now I'm drawing little lines. Don't do this on yours. I'm just trying to draw it so you can see it at home. So you can see it a little bit better. So there's my entrance. So after they make it all through here, they're going to come into here for a bottleneck. Yep. So now we need to find a place to bottleneck and make sure they're going to exit into here. So you can erase it anywhere you want to. I'm going to do mine over here. I'm going to show you those lines. Now you've already set them up in the maze. They're going to have to come in this way. We're going to show you how to do lines here. In order to get over here, this is the only way because this is a solid line. And then they're going to have to go through here. And then they're going to have to, this is their only way to get down here until they get to the exit. So I'll make sure I darken those lines. So you should have an entry, a bottleneck, and a way to get out. So right there. So now we're going to start working on this section first. When you do it this way, you're making sure it's going to be harder to solve because they might get down there and they can't get through. That's kind of the tricky part of the maze. So we're going to look at this section right here, and we're going to just not think about these right now. So we're going to look at this is a section of rectangle, and we're going to draw a rectangle inside of it. Remember to keep this is the first channel that we're making. So when we make this channel, we need to think about keeping it the same distance. So I'm going to make a rectangle inside. So I know all my channels need to be about that big. Okay. My board is wanting to move on me today. It thinks it's amazing too. Okay, so you should have a rectangle. Now watch your channel, honey. You have to make sure it's big enough. Can you move it in a little bit? You want to make sure you'd be able to make a path or that channel for them to go around. So we're going to put that in. Yep. You're going to have to make this channel a little bit wider right there because I can't see where it is. That's right. It's okay. Remember, you have an eraser. So we have charcoal. It's a little bit harder. So now I'm going to create two paths where they might enter in. So you can do that. We're going to do just what we did on the outside. I'm going to give myself a space right there. So there's an entry point. I'm trying to darken it so you can see. Is that a little bit darker, Talia? Okay. And then I'm going to erase a spot. You can erase, you just want to erase two spots. It doesn't matter where they are. If I darken this up a little bit. So can you see I have my entry, then I've done my inside rectangle, and I have a spot here and a spot here. We're going to draw another rectangle inside. Same way. Now be mindful, you've got your channel right there. So like if I hold my finger up, it's that width. If you want to measure it, you can measure it. If you want to see if it's the width of your eraser, so you can think about spacing that. So we're going to draw another rectangle inside. And it doesn't have to be super exact. You just want to make sure it's harder to find. When they look at it, it all kind of looks the same. Now, so now I've got one rectangle, two rectangles, and a third rectangle, and guess what I'm going to do? I am going to make 3 openings this time. 1, 2. Tate, I think you are doing your very best. Good job. It's hard sometimes to draw those. So I'm doing my little lines so you can see where my entrances are. I want you can make them all 3 on the same line. So you just want to make it where people can get through those channels. God bless you. Oh, that was a hard sneeze, wasn't it? Okay. Keaton, how's your maze coming over there? Good. Okay. Now, you can start out and you could just make your maze this size, but we're making it a little bit tricky. So see how my channels, good job, Tate. So guess what we're going to do? Are we going to draw another rectangle, Tate? Yep. So I have my outer rectangle with 2 openings. I've got my next rectangle with 2 openings. I've got my third rectangle. So I have 3 openings. So now we're going to draw a 4th rectangle inside. Keeping your channels. You're doing a great job, Tate. Just, you keep on going, baby. Just watch your channels and try and space them out. Sometimes that's kind of hard to do, isn't it? Oh, see, I made mine a little wide there. So we're on our 4th rectangle. We're going to give it 3 openings too. So once you have your 4th rectangle drawn, come in, and you know what to do. Make an opening wherever you want to make those openings. Now what I try to do is I try to not make the openings right across from each other, but you can make them anywhere you want, so I try to space them around. So there's 1 opening on the top, and I have 1 opening here. Are you starting to see how it's starting to look like a maze? Yep. So now we're going to draw, you have to keep them squares or rectangles, but we're going to draw 2 shapes in here. So I'm going to draw 1 up here, keeping our channels in mind. And I'm going to draw 1 down here. Now you're going to space them apart like a channel too. So that's kind of hard. Yep, so we have still a channel all the way around. And Tate, you have room to fit another one down there. So Tate has 3 and I have 2. We're going to make 2 openings in each of those. So I'm going to make an opening up here, and I'm going to make an opening down here. So are you starting to see, to do the maze, it's the same shape inside the same shape inside the same shape. We're just creating openings. Like there. I've got an opening there, an opening there, but I want to have them go out, so we're going to have to do 2 openings in each square. Okay? It's hard. Tate's my lefty, and he's having to use charcoal so y'all could see it. It'd be easier with a permanent marker, but you can't erase those. Okay. Now, what do you think we're going to do inside these, Tate? Good job. What do you think we're going to do inside these? Draw another square. 1 more. I think we can fit 1 more in here. So let's draw 1 more. And because we want it to be a dead end, let's just make one opening in each of those. Maybe we'll trick somebody to go all the way in there. So I'm going to make one opening in each of those. And then we'll go over where we are. Okay. So right here on this side, can you see our maze coming together? Remember our channels, we're trying to keep those spaced equally. Just do the best job. If this is your first maze, you haven't drawn channels before, so you'll learn that as you go. On each opening, you want at least 2 entrances so that you have an entrance and an exit. When we got in, we started making more, so we made, on our second rectangle inside, we made 2 openings. On our third rectangle, we made 3 openings. And on our fourth rectangle, we made another 3. You could make 4 if you wanted to. Then we put some in the middle and started changing the shapes so we could see where they end up going. We're going to take this idea and we're going to do the same thing over here. So it's just, they're called concentric shapes. So the same shapes that go inside or they get bigger. It's the same shape repeated over in a different size. So we have rectangles sitting inside of rectangles, right, Tate? Uh-oh, you're going to get charcoal on your face. And we've got some over here. Now, Tate, if you want to draw squiggly lines, you can make yours different than mine. Well, do you want to try and use, I have a charcoal pencil. Talia, will you see if you get a charcoal pencil? That might be easier for him. But if you want to draw squiggly lines in here, just remember what's important about the maze. What do you have to make? Openings. And you need to keep your channels. So here you go. Why don't you try and use that? Okay, so I'm going to come over here. Tate's going to make his lines different shapes in here. So you could make them squiggly. I'm going to make another rectangle again. So I'm going to make another rectangle inside here. How's everyone doing? We have any questions, Michaela?
They're doing good.
Awesome, guys. You ready to try out your, remember you got to keep your channels the same. So, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Make some openings. So let's make an entrance and an exit. And I'm going to make them go all the way up here, I think. Okay. So. And then do you know what to do now? We're going to put another one. Here we go. This is our third one. So on our third one, we put 3 entrances or exits. So I'm going to erase those, erase that one, and maybe erase one right here. Try and make sure y'all can see those clearly. So Tate, can you show them some of how, here. So he's making this. Now this is going to have to go into an entrance or an exit because you can't have an open end. But see how he's going to make you go all over? You're just going to have to give him an entrance or an exit every time you do your lines. So if you want to try and just start some crazy lines, you're welcome to. Just remember you have to get them in or out. That's part of the maze. They're finding their way. So over here we have 1 rectangle, 2 rectangles, 3 rectangles. Let's go with our 4th. Here we go. Keeping our channels about the same. And then, you know what comes next. Grab your eraser. Let's give them, I'm going to give them 3 ways in or out. You can do it however you want. But give them at least 3. You can give them 4 if you want to. So, oh, my shapes are getting a little fun. Okay. So Tate's working on his. Now when we get to the fourth, we start dividing this into different shapes. So let's go. I'm going to put a square here. And I'm going to put a square here, keeping my channels about the same. So, and then I'm going to make sure these, you want to give them at least an entrance and an exit. You're still trying to confuse them when they get in there. Okay? So we're going to give them an in and out. And then I'm going to give them one more box with only one way in or out. I'm actually just going to make it, because these are so small, I made them just without a side. So, can you see your maze coming together? So you've got, remember, when we started, we made sure there was only one way in, and we made sure you had to come over here, and we made sure you have to come out here, and then out here. We still have a lot of open space that would make it easy, so don't worry about that. We're going to solve that at the very end when we go through. So, how are you doing? Is everyone done with their next quadrant here? Right there? So guess what we're going to do again? It's the same thing. You're getting really good at this. So we're going to repeat that. Let's go through. Let's put our inner rectangle right here. And we're going to give it an entrance and an exit. So just erase where you want to. Okay. Okay. Okay, Tate, you almost ready to move down here? Oh, his looks like a topography map. All sorts of things. So I've got a rectangle here, a second rectangle with an entrance and an exit. I'm going to go to a third rectangle. You could even have worked on ahead of me if you want, because you know where we are. On our third rectangle, we give 3. So let's give it an entrance and another one and maybe another one right here. An entrance and exits. So I'm going to make sure you can see those. Is it dark enough they can see, T? Yep. Y'all doing good? Okay. Good job. Why don't you start down here? There's more. Well, you have to make it super tricky. So I'm going to do my fourth rectangle in here. Let's give it an entrance. I'm going to give it 3. Entrance, exit, another entrance or exit. Oh my goodness, we're almost there, guys. You've almost completed your very first maze. So, now, guess what we're going to do in here? Keaton, how are you doing over there?
I'm on the 4th box.
Okay, so we're going to add the 2 different boxes in here. So I'm going to put those in here. Right there, and I'm going to add another one, leaving a channel. And then we've got to give them an entrance and an exit, an entrance and an exit. And then I'm going to give them another little tricky line in between. How about that? I'll have to figure it out. So, okay. So you should have it where you should have all your spaces filled. And you should have channels that are equal. Now, they won't know that you only made one spot here. They may keep going. So in order to make this extra tricky, we have to solve it first and create the path. That's what your light colored highlighter is for. So what we're going to do, and if you're finishing up, just finish up while I'm talking, we're going to take the highlighter and we're going to work through our maze the path that we think they should take. So we're going to go all through it and we're going to come out and then we're going to start closing off to make sure that's the only way through our maze. So you want to get your highlighter and we're going to start, and this is a good way to find out if you don't have enough entrances or if you need more. So we're going to take our highlighter and we're going to start, and your maze is going to be different than mine, so I want you to start and you're going to go into the first channel and you're going to decide if you want to take this entrance or this exit. I'm going to have them go ahead and go in here. Okay, so can you see my orange on camera? Okay. Those will be too dark, baby. It needs to be light. You'll see why it has to be light in a minute. So then I think I'm going to have them come all the way down here. So we're in our next channel. Have it come all the way down here, and it has to go into the middle. We're going to try and make them through all our channels. Now I'm going to work all my way through those 4 boxes. Any way you want them to go, you're making their path. So I'm going to make them go in through here. Now remember, I've got to work all my way to my one area there. Ooh, this is tricky. This is going to be really tricky when they have to try and solve it. So I am through. This is the path I've decided they're going to take. So it's all through the first rectangle. So when you get all the way here, you want to get to your one bottleneck. You remember our bottlenecks we made at the very beginning? So now don't worry. We're going to put these lines all over so they won't know where your path is. So now we're going to do the same thing, and you're going to work your path you want them to take through here. So I'm going to have them come all the way up here, but you go and you're going to work into your rectangles. Making sure you're going in your entrances and exits. If you find that you need to add an entrance or exit, you can always erase. I'm going to make them, oh, this is going to be tricky. So you're going to work your way through all the quadrants, all the channels, and figure out the path. And you're trying to get to this bottleneck right here. And if you find that you need to erase to make a channel, you just erase and make it. So now we're all the way through, and we've come to our second bottleneck. So now we're going to work on having them exit. So you're going to pick the path. You're going to go anywhere you want to go. You could make it really easy and go straight out, or you could make them have to come in and wind around. Trying to think of all the ways I could make them have to go. Oops, there goes my top. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to need to make, see, right here, I'm going to need to make another opening. So that's why we get to run through this and figure this out. So you made it all the way to the exit tape. So we're going to try and get all the way to the exit. So you should have basically solved your maze. But what you're going to do now is you're going to go back and you're going to close off all the channels to make sure that this is the only way they can solve the maze. And what do I mean by that? I mean by instead of being able to go all the way down here, I'm going to close this channel. And instead of being able to go all the way up here, I'm going to close this channel. You see what I'm doing? I'm making a dead end so they can't go. So I'm going to go in and you're going to close each channel to make sure that that's the only way they can go. So they'll have to come to dead ends if they can't figure it out. So we're closing our channels as we go around. See how we close our channel? And you can close at entrance. So I'm trying to think of other places I need to close. Well, they can't get up that way. What? On top? Oh, you're right. I have to close. Talia pointed out I need to close. That makes it really easy. You can get all the way through. So let's see. They can get in that way, but they can't get out. So I've got my first one all closed where they can't. I've got dead ends. So you can use your finger to trace. You can have people look, and you're going to close channels all the way through. So if you have any questions, let us know. But it's okay if you leave some because they can just go around over and over and over. But this is all a dead end, see? So we're going to close this channel here. Same thing. We're going to make it where these are the only ways they can go. So you're going to close off your channels. We're making it tricky, aren't we, Tate? So we've got our channels closed off. We're saying that's the only way they can go. And we're going to go through here and do the same. We're going to close those channels so there's no other way they can go. So, let's see. I think, we're going to close this channel right here. I think I've got it where all my channels are closed. And so now I've made my path. So what do you do now? Because you've shown the exit. Now you go over all your channels in the same way and they won't know which one it was. So I go over this one. I make the lines through all of them. Now they won't know which one goes where. See what happens there? So I'm going to go through every single one of my channels so you don't know where the entrance is. Now, when you get used to making these over and over, this is a great way for me to demo to you, but when you get used to making these over and over, you can just run the maze lightly in pencil, then erase that where they won't find it. You don't have to use the highlighter. But on camera and learning for the first time, this is a great way to show how to do it. So, you're going to go through every channel, and then they're not going to know which the right one is. Oh my goodness. Doesn't that make the maze look hard? Now it starts to look tricky, doesn't it? Now the other thing is these should be light enough to still see pencil through. So you can take it to your brother or sister, your sibling, your child, your mom, your dad, or you could all swap papers and see if you can solve each other's. So, I'm going to continue to make it all the way through. So Keaton, are you done with yours?
Not yet.
Almost. I'm going to finish going through mine. What do you think about making a maze today? a fun way to spend an hour on an afternoon. Especially it's cold here today. It was very cold. We had a chill and a frost. So all I want to do is snuggle inside with a cup of coffee and be all warm and cozy or something warm to drink. Tate said he needed hot cocoa today. That's what he was saying, didn't you?
Yes.
Oh, was yesterday you needed hot cocoa?
Watching a movie after homework.
And watching a movie after homework.
With buttery popcorn.
And with buttery popcorn? Wait, this list is getting longer. Hot cocoa, a movie after homework, and buttery popcorn. You have to have popcorn with a movie. You're right. Okay, so so now you have your full maze that looks super tricky. And you tell them they have to follow whatever color lines, follow the orange line and follow their way out of there. So you can put your name, you can title your maze. Now, if you want to try and make more, what you can do is you can decide you want to do them in different shapes. Remember, we start with that outer shape and we work in erasing our ins and our outs. And you always need to have an entrance and an exit until you get to the very center. So, Keaton, you want to come over here and show me your maze? Here, you can bop on stage and say hi. This is my middle son, but he's way taller than me. So, okay, here's Keaton's maze, which looks awesome. And here, Tate. So what they're going to do is they're going to, right after we finish art lessons, they're going to swap mazes, and they're going to have the challenge of solving each other's mazes. I hope you thought that this was amazing, and you had a lot of fun with it, and I hope to see some of your mazes if you share them with me. So, we'll see you tomorrow. We've got a great lesson, and what do we say at the end? Art is man's nature, and nature is God's art. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.